What up? It is Golden Spaces, an Odyssey original podcast with Justin and Nat. A late edition episode tonight because Justin had a hot date again, so we could not record immediately after the game. I'm sorry that Justin's dating life affects our recording schedule, guys, but he's a young man and I can't tell him otherwise. So, yes.
My coworkers can vouch. We all went out together. We went bowling as a team. I won.
You won?
You know, I won both games.
You're like the annoying person who's like, because you're an athlete, you're just like always good at shit and like outplay everybody, right?
Wow.
Because you're always like,
what?
I'm saying you're always posting your basketball clips is like, did you win? Yeah. Or did you? Yeah, I did. I was the best under this. And then now you talking about bowling and like you win bowling. So like, what the hell aren't you good at, yo?
I've yet to find out. So no, I'm just kidding.
You
no, we were playing. No. We were playing card games and I was getting destroyed in those. So yeah, I guess I'm not that good at that stuff.
I don't want my black card revoked, so I ain't gonna tell you that I don't know how to play most of them games. I ain't gonna tell you which ones.
I'm not gonna put you under the bus. I'm not gonna
ask. Well, yeah, no, but like, so you were out. So what was your like? How closely could you watch the game? I know you and I were texting about it, but I want to know what you were like because I know what I was like, and I'll get into that in a minute. But you were out, so were you having to conduct your behavior? Were you reacting? Were your people looking at you like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, what was happening?
For sure. I mean, I was at a bar for the first half, and I was like, "Yo, can y'all put this game on?" And then all my coworkers and like we're just playing Uno and stuff like that, and like. Everybody else is paying attention to the game. I'm like, yo, can y'all move real quick? Like I'm watching the game and I'm screaming and all this type of stuff. So yeah. And then the second half, we had finally got to the bowling alley and I'm screaming, oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And everybody, what the fuck is going on with him? Or what is going on with him?
It's Justin. You can't even give me it's Justin.
Look, that was a little quick one. I didn't really. Sorry, bro. Anyway. Yeah, so I'm really demonstrative when I'm watching the game, no matter where I am. So
I have to watch a game with you. It has to happen. Yeah. I got to watch a game with you because I can't imagine you ever being demonstrative.
Oh, it gets bad. It gets bad. Yeah.
I need to be a part of this experience. I will let y'all know when that's going to happen. Why? You know what? We should do a live watch. We should on YouTube and ask the people to join us because I need to see demonstrative Justin. So let me ask this question because I mean you've played and I'm sure you've been in scenarios before where you're down and it's late game or you're up and it's close and either team can win. Like, do you start to get a little nervous? Like, do you keep your composure? So you individually, but then how does that impact you when you watch games? Because I'll be stressed out. Like they be taking years off my life.
Mm-hmm. I think watching the game is way more stressful than if you're in it. Like if you're in it, you understand like you're playing against the clock. So I don't think there's a lot of nerves there. It's just like, we got to make something shake. Like, you know, this is how I feel personally. It's like, all right, we got this amount of chances. We got to make something happen. And if it doesn't happen in the amount of time that we got, then we gave it our best shot. But as a fan, you're like, you know, like the moment the shot goes up, you're praying it goes in, like you're biting your nails and you're hoping they can get a stop. And you're hoping whenever the other team shoots, it just doesn't miraculously go in.
And do you feel like that when you're watching all those emotions, you go through them the way the rest of us do?
Oh yeah. Okay. Especially the luck that the Warriors have had this season with other teams shooting. I know it was at home, so the luck wasn't, you know, they usually run out of luck on the road, but Drew was hitting some crazy shots and Joe Ingles couldn't miss from three. So I was just like, I hope they can pull it out. I thought, to be honest, 2 minutes left, Like the way I view games, it's like however many possessions you need to get back into the lead in comparison to how many minutes you have left. So it was 8-point deficit, which means 3 possession game, 2 minutes left. You have less minutes than possessions. I was like, oh, it's kind of over. But then,
I was going to ask, did you think they were going to come back? Because they were down, like around 7 or 8, and it was like around 2 minutes left. And I just because of the way the season has gone, I imagine a lot of Dub Nation was like, man, we about to lose this again. We blew it again. We about to blow this game again. What were you feeling and thinking?
I was definitely thinking that. Yeah. And Steph was like, nah, I got y'all. Steph and Clay, because we got to give Clay his flowers too. Defense, he took over in the beginning of OT as well. But yeah, 8-point deficit with 2 minutes. I'm like, man, it can happen, but I just can't see it. And then it just did. So
I mean, we know if it can happen with those two. And like Clay hit like a really big shot before Steph kind of went on his like heater. So for sure. And yeah, he was solid. And like, I mean, I saw some people trying to say like Middleton just tripped. Nah, he didn't just trip. That was great defense. So yeah, I mean, I was pacing back and forth between my room and the living room. I was having some conversations with Jehovah. Yeah, I was doing all those things because I was like, yo, son, we got a lot going on. And, you know, we've been having some kind of outcomes that have been going for the other guys. I think we sort of deserve this one tonight, just by my estimation, you know. Holy Father, you know what I'm saying? So
it's about time another team blows a lead late against the Warriors rather than the other way around.
Yeah. Drew thought he had it with that 3, and like he should have felt like that, but I ain't like the facial expressions and all that. I was just like, no, y'all not gonna let Drew Holiday beat y'all in this building like that.
I know, right? I know.
I wasn't feeling it. And I don't like dislike Drew at all, but I was not feeling that. The look and the you think you're the
you're not like that, Drew.
Man, you're not like that, son. You're not like that.
It's funny how Steph drew Holiday too with that block. That's a play Drew usually makes. So that was cool to see too. But I ain't really like that.
Blocked it. Oh, he blocked it. He dead. Oh man, let me tell you, I was on my petty last night because I had somebody arguing with me the other day. Sorry. I had someone arguing with me the other day about his defense. And you know, it's like, come on, it's 2000
about Steph's defense.
Yeah, talking about he don't play no D, you know. So I already know what kind of watcher you are when you say that. But it was actually someone saying that because it was someone. So let me tell you, it was I've been getting my takes off on Holly and Smith. I'm Holly, brother from another. That's the @ for the account, Holly and Smith, because those are their last names. So I've been getting my MVP takes off and a lot of stuff. So people are like responding in the comments and stuff like that. And so someone was like actually supporting my Jokic take. Whatever they were saying, they were like, man, there's all these other guys I would take. And they listed a bunch of players, but they were like, maybe even Steph. I'm like, maybe even Steph. Because it was like dudes in there who like Steph was clearly better than. So I was confused. So I was like, maybe even Steph. Right. And so I replied, you know, from the account. And they were like, this is influential. Y'all let her take over the account. Who don't know that I don't run that account? Like, this is not a secret. So I was like, indeed. and so then he's like, man, you know, he don't play no defense. I said, what? So I really didn't even entertain the conversation. But thank you to our guy, J Squared. I just replied back to that guy with the photo of the block.
The block.
So yeah. Then there was somebody the other day telling me, talking nonsense about Steph not being clutch. And I said, before Steph got injured, he was leading fourth quarters in scoring. And he was like, Well, that doesn't always translate to being clutch. Okay. First of all, normally
We
it
literally
actually.
just watched June. June happened.
I said, well, it may not always translate, but it usually does. And in Steph's case, it does. And I said, but we know he's clutch. Like what? Like I was so perplexed. So then I replied to that person. I was like, looked pretty clutch to me tonight. And he's like, oh, he was. Yeah, he's always clutch. Like I don't know. And then like someone was. I said, you guys understand it was another Dame conversation. And I'm like, you guys understand that buzzer beaters are not the only definition of clutch, right? And you can be clutch and sometimes still not win the game. And I don't think people understand that. Clutch is about what you do in the closing minutes, essentially, of a close game, right? And someone's going to eventually win, but you could have two clutch players in a game and one wins and one loses. They still can both be clutch. So it was just like this notion that like, Dame is somehow more clutch is so ridiculous to me. I'm not trying to have a Dame conversation today, but that was that one. So that was pretty fun. And it was interesting because there were some Toronto Raptors fans and they're actually defending Steph. And they were just like, it's inherently clutch to not even have to be playing in fourth quarters because you know how to put away teams early. And the guy's like, you're not going to change the definition of clutch, dude. I mean, it was some goofy conversation. So I was just in my petty last night. So I was going around and I was pulling receipts. I was like, just, I was all, and then I was just like, we didn't record last night, which typically, historically, when the Warriors win, then I go terrorizing the TL, but you and I hop on to record a pod. So I don't get to do that as much this year. So I was reliving, some of the old Nadley. So yeah, I was in my bag last night, to be honest, Justin. I was in my Twitter bag.
Hey, let's keep it going. Let's, get another win against Phoenix. Then it's going to be even more because they're the most insufferable fans in the league. I believe them and the Grizzlies fans, they up there. So they can beat Phoenix. That'll be amazing because we can just stay in the petty era.
They are. I mean, there was just so much glorious about last night. I don't care that Giannis wasn't playing. The Bucks are still a very good team, even without Giannis. And the Warriors were down three key guys. So yes, Steph and Clay played, but like to me, I'm not saying that it balances out missing a guy like Giannis, but like the Warriors were pretty depleted too. I mean, we had no front court. Thank goodness for JaMychal Green, and we'll shout him out, shortly. But just and others who stepped up, but we were very thin, So I don't care what anyone says. People trying to minimize it, talking about, oh, Warriors fans excited because they beat the Bucks without Giannis. All you other teams celebrate when you beat us without our players. All you other teams celebrate when you win. It was still a very good win. And like, no one should be saying that it's not, or it doesn't matter because people have this thing where they think because one main guy is missing. It's sort of like when you think about the 2016 finals and everyone just assumes because Kyrie would have played. Yes, the series would have looked different. All those games would have still been close. It may have still been a 6-game series. I still think the Warriors were the better team, but everyone just assumes like, oh, it would have been 7 or the Cavs would have won because of that and don't account for like all the other things that happened in the game. Like they became a better defensive team without Kyrie and on the court. So it's not the way people think like, oh, Giannis was there, then like then y'all would have got blown out. Not necessarily. That's not how it works. So there's different adjustments, then different things happen. So you really can't say that. Obviously, the Bucks are a better team with Giannis on the court. We know that. No one is trying to deny that, but that was still a good win against a very solid team that does know how to win without their star player. So no one should be looking at it or minimizing it. That was a great win. Shout out to the Warriors for doing that last night, especially after being down late and going to overtime. We know their overtime record. And I was so thankful because I was like, if I have to see Anthony Slater tweet that damn overtime stat again, I'm going to lose my mind, which he actually did right before they went to overtime. But there was no tweeting them after the game because they won the game. But it's like, and then coming off of losing 3 games on the road, it was a really, really important win. And as he always does, when he knows the team is just really needing something, he puts them on his back and takes them with him. And so shout out to Wardell, Stephen Curry for that. And with that, I think we need to kind of get into some of the individual performances from last night, because there were so many that were tremendous. But just to cap off what we're talking about, great win. Great for like Chase getting that kind of game playoff atmosphere, just a good win. And shout out to the squad for doing that under so much adversity still.
Yeah, like you said, Steph put a team on his back. This team has no wings playing right now. Like at this point, Andre's a 4. You know, Clay is weird because offensively he's a true shooting guard. He's a 2. And then defensively they try to play him up, but that's not really his strong suit. So they're without all their wings. They have no Wiggins, no Kuminga, no Gary, and as much as we don't like to mention them, they have who shall not be named. They don't have who shall not be named until probably tomorrow, when unfortunately they will convert him to a full contract, and that's all your wing players.
You're guessing.
That's what I'm guessing. Especially with Andrew. I think tomorrow is like the deadline for, it's like some type of deadline where they just avoid spending extra money if they wait until tomorrow to convert them. I got to look into it exactly, but March 13th just rings in my mind as a date where like they'll convert someone or they'll just sign someone.
So it looks like I have to have more conversations with Jehovah then. But you know, moving on from that. So why don't we get into some of the individual performances from last night, because there were so many tremendous, great ones. Starting with the star, Wardell. I mean, Steph was just tremendous, and it's incredible. It's sort of reminiscent of when he came back versus the Portland Trailblazers and said, "I'm back," because he didn't really have the greatest game for most of the game. You know, like he wasn't shooting the ball that well. He was like, I mean, he was trying to get to the rim. He was getting some shots. I actually thought the Bucks did a really good job defensively. Like, we know that Brooke is a really great rim protector, but like I just think in general, like even though a lot of Steph shots were open, I did feel like they were a little rushed, and I thought that they were just doing a good job, right? Like team defense wise, right? And so he wasn't shooting the ball that well. But I want to credit the Bucks. I think they had a little something to do with that, right? Initially. And so Clay was actually like pretty hot the whole night, but he got into some early foul trouble, right? So like his rotation was a little off. So, but Steph was not having like a great, spectacular night. Obviously, he was still adding because when he's on the court, it helps. But he himself, the scoring output wasn't there. He just, you know, he was missing like, you know, bunnies at the rim that he normally makes. He just wasn't having a typical Steph performance. And then, first of all, I almost lost my shit when Kerr like took him out. Like, listen, this is the nonsense I'm talking about. They were down 6, I think, and he takes them out.
It was like, it was like 5 minutes left or something.
Justin.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that was for a quick breather because he came right back in, but it was just, it just seemed like, here's the game. It just seemed like, here you go, Mike Budenholzer. I'm giving you the game. Thankfully, Steph was like, nah.
It was so ridiculous, and I wish I was someone who was rich, because sometimes I want to throw something at my TV, but I don't want to break it because I can't just be affording to break shit and buy it again, because I so be wanting to throw shit at my TV. Like, the man irks me. So, you know, Steph comes back, and like, it wasn't just at that point, but he just went crazy in the fourth. He had, before the game almost ended, what was it? It was like 16 points. On not great shooting. It was pretty inefficient. He ended up with 36 points. So between the fourth and overtime, in a very short window of time, actually, right? He scored 20 points between the period in the fourth and also overtime. and ended up shooting like he was just under 50% from the field, shot 40% from three. I mean, he's just so incredible. And it was just one of those games where like he was not going to let the team lose. I mean, he took basically every shot, you know. Mm-hmm. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown time and time again that he's capable of doing stuff like this, and it never ceases to amaze people because that's exactly what it is. It's like, how are you doing this? Like, dude has a counter for every single thing that you can possibly throw at him at this point in his career, and it shows up in moments like this where Brook is like blocking everything at the rim, but he's like, all right, I've figured you out. Like, he had 5 blocks, and then he just like started floating them real quick floaters before Brook can even react. Drew Holiday is chasing him over the top of each screen while Brook is waiting for him at the rim. There's not many more defensive tandems that's more potent than Drew over top of you and Brook waiting for you at the rim. And Steph's just like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. I'm going to weave my way through the defense and lay it up when I want to. I'm going to just pull up from 30 feet with my body not even facing the rim and still hit it. It's just like, come on, bro. Like, it's crazy stuff. And then, I mean, Klay, like I said, put Drew in the basket twice to start the game, post-ups. And that's part of what makes Klay Thompson so valuable, aside from his catch and shoot ability, is he's 6'7", he's still big, he's still tall, and he can just shoot over guys no matter how good you are as a point of attack defender. If you're too small, you're too small. So, yeah, Steph is just a monster.
Klay was crucial last night. And, of course, we got to talk about White Dante, because I had tweeted early in the game, I was like, Dante – I'm expecting a big game from him against his former team, and he did not disappoint. What did he have, 20?
Yeah, he had a big game. He had a big game against them when we played them in Milwaukee too. He just lost that game, but 6-3. Yeah.
I knew he was coming through, and I just love Dante. Like, I mean, I think he's really become a fan favorite, and I don't see how possible they can keep him, and I don't want to even look too far ahead. But I hope that he wants to stay enough and that the vets can impress upon them enough to figure out a way to keep him and work something out, because he really is so tremendous to this team. It looks like they figured out something with that lineup with him in it. The starting lineup that they used last night, they were, I think, a plus 23 for the night. We'll get to what that means or says about Poole. We'll get into all of that. But I'm just saying, I mean, he's just tremendous. I don't like all these like Poole Dante comparisons that are starting. First it was GP2. Now it's just ridiculous. But we'll get there to the nonsense. But he's just the right kind of player for this team. He just fits. I mean, I think my actual favorite part of last night was when Klay got the steal. When Middleton tripped, fell, whatever, Klay got the steal, and then he threw it up to Steph, and Steph and Dante were running the break. And I just love that he ran with Steph, and he made sure he was there in a position that if Steph would have missed that layup, he would have been able to like put it back in. I just was like, oh my God, I love him. But I also love that Steph made that, because Drew was right on his heels. Drew was right. And Steph really would have just passed it to Dante, because Drew would have like passed him and Dante probably would have had an easier, cleaner look. But Steph is just like, no, I'm just this great, so I'm going to make it with Drew right there on me. You know, it is just the whole thing. Like, when you really think about what transpired, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. But like, I was just so happy with Dante running the break with him.
Yeah. He's like Andre, like what Andre was, but in a different way, you know, much more of a shooter, whereas Andre was just like finishing a lot around the rim. But he fills the stat sheet. He crashed the glass so hard, especially for somebody his size. 10 rebounds, like 10
he was in the middle of everything last night. Even the ones he didn't get, he almost had a chance to get. He was just like, you know, it was crazy.
That's what he got to do. I think he's just a master of his role, because he understands his role so well. And he just plays fearless. Like, he just goes out there. He's not afraid to be in the middle of everything, even when he's the smallest guy out there. And that leads to filling up the stat sheet: 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Like, that should not be a normal stat line for somebody his size. But he makes it happen because he just goes out there and just does all the dirty work. And that's just,
and he actually fits better on this team than he did with the Bucks or any of the other teams that he's been on. That's why it would be so, and I hope he considers that, because while I know there are going to be lots of teams wanting to offer him money, like they're not going to all be able to offer him the same role where he can, thrive like this. And I hope that helps them to be able to get somewhere. But I mean, he was just so great. And I love his personality. And I think it's really good that he has a relationship with Jordan. I'm hoping that helps, on some level, in some way, because I just feel like Jordan is probably going through a lot this season. So, and now with Wiggins being gone, we know that was like Jordan's guy. So I'm glad it sort of seems like he probably has someone else who's like, somewhat close to him. Back. Yeah. And I mean, Gary has just brought all the vibes back, right? Like him and Steph were just, when Steph was still out, they were just having a ball on the bench, And I think I tweeted at one point, I don't think I ever saw Gary this happy on the bench in Portland. Not once, ever.
No. He definitely did not want to be gone. And yeah, Dante bringing the vibes, Gary bringing the vibes. I can't wait to see them both playing together, just to see all the plays, because they're just the kings of the little plays. So the little plays that turn into big plays. So just seeing those two in the court together could potentially be devastating for second units in the playoffs. So we just got to hope that everybody's there and healthy, and Andrew's back and in the right place, in a good place when he's back, so he can, do what he does, which sends Dante and Gary to the bench and let them do what they do.
For sure, because Dante is a menace out there. Got to give a shout out to JaMychal Green, because he had like a really big game. What is it? What do you think it is? Do you think it's lack of consistent minutes? Why? I don't expect him to hit as many threes as he did last game. And I really did not like that he gave up that shot at the end to, who was it? What quarter was it? To Portis. Yes. That irked me. But that aside, he had meaningful impact last night, and it wasn't just because of the scoring. And I guess, what is it, do you think, that prevents him from being? I get role players are role players for a reason, but I just feel like it's like such a stark contrast between like his highs and his lows. Like, why can't we just get something a little bit like more in the middle?
I think it ultimately boils down to hitting shots, to be honest. I don't think he does all the other things well enough to make up the gap when he's not hitting shots. Okay. He was 4 for 6 from 3. I mean, plus minus, you take plus minus with a grain of salt, but he was minus 14 in his minutes, largely because of plays like when he gave up the one against Bobby Portis. And it's just like, you would like, if he was a little bit farther ahead mentally with their defensive coverages, I think his impact would be a lot higher, because he is hitting shots now. He's at 38% on the year. And I think since he came back from that like staph infection, he's at like almost 50% from 3, something crazy. So, I mean, I like what I saw from him. Just continue to hit shots, rebound, crash the glass, play with energy, because they just going to need bodies in the front court that can just not bleed the lead too much.
And I get the impression though, like, because we know, even though really on this team that the rotation should only be 9 when you include GP2 being back, right? So at 10-ish counting Andre, right? But okay. But we just know Kerr is not, huh?
And I was gonna say out of necessity, Andre, because they don't got a lot of bigs. But yeah, 9-ish, 9.5. Right.
But I just feel like Kerr will at some point go deeper, right? And so who is he going to go deeper to? Is he going to go to someone like a JaMychal, or is he going to go to the person who shall not be named in the postseason?
I think he's going to go to the person who should not be named.
In the postseason?
I think so. Just because he loves that guy. He loves that guy. And I mean, just from a statistical standpoint, that guy is a much better combo with Kuminga and Draymond and all those other guys from a net rating and just like winning the minutes standpoint. and there isn't a tremendous drop off in shooting and stuff like that. And he's more of a switchable player and stuff like that. He just does more of the things that the Warriors.
I don't want him playing with us. I'm going to have a serious conversation tonight. I don't even want to talk about it anymore because I'm telling you, he brings the bad juju. I'm telling you, it's him. He's one part of it.
Hopefully it's Andre. Like, hopefully it's just like the big rotation in the postseason is Draymond, Looney, Kuminga, and Andre. And then you let Wiggins play 4 a little bit and just kind of see where you go from there. But yeah, I can't see JMG getting the minutes over the other guy.
So let me ask this question. Actually, why don't we stop there, with this conversation? Because I want to get into a little Wiggs and I want to get into a little Jordan Poole. So I think we finished giving out the flowers to all the players who deserve flowers from last night, right?
Dre.
Did we miss anyone? Dre. Who?
Draymond and Looney deserve their flowers defensively.
Yeah. As soon as I said it, I was like, wait, because I'm going to just go on the record and say I was bad mouthing Loon a little bit last night. Not on Twitter. I would never do that. But in text to Justin because he was pissing me off. I just sometimes there are things that he should just be able to do that he can't. And it drives me crazy. Like, what is this? You're a big body. Why can't you do this? Right? But he just does so many other great things. like normally we can overlook it, but it was just like we needed to win this so bad. Touches were so high, so I let the moment get the best of me. So I'm like, Justin, why? And I'm like texting Justin in fury, right? And then I look, and then I'm just like, then he had like that dunk, and then I look, and I'm like, yo, he really did a lot tonight. Okay, he didn't deserve my slander, which is why I'm happy that I did not put it on the timeline, but only in the text message to my counterpart here. So shout out to Loon, who was tremendous last night, and shout out to Dre for like coming back and playing in the game. His ankle probably feels like shit today. Kerr was saying he's worried about how his ankle's going to feel. It was funny because apparently like the training staff was like, Dre is questionable to return, but Dre told them I'm probable to return. So that's how they reported it on ABC. So that was pretty funny. But all jokes aside, I mean, like the finger the other day, now this, I mean, Dre is really banged up, and if they could get him like a day or two of rest extra, I feel like that would be huge. And I mean, I feel like if they still had Andrew and they had Kuminga, they might be able to look at a game on the schedule and do that. But right now, with so many people missing, it's like they can't, So I like when Kerr was saying he was worried, I was like, in a game at home, do we think they could beat the Suns if Kuminga was back? And like somebody was in my mentions, like Kuminga's in a boot. No, he's not. That's not true. I was like,
he's questionable for the game.
Yeah, because they upgraded him, but they also said he was day to day from yesterday. So when you're usually day to day, that means, so the person's like, I don't think we're seeing him tomorrow. And I'm like, it's not what day to day usually means. So I was laughing today. I didn't go back on my petty and be like, oh, this is interesting. He was upgraded to questionable, because people just be hopping in and acting like they know when they don't know. So,
yeah,
I just feel like it would be really great if they can somewhere get Draymond like a couple of because everything right now is every other night they have a game. They don't have like 2 nights between games until that last week in March. And so I just feel like in a home game where it gives them some extra, and they don't have really a bunch of home games again until like basically the end of the month after this one. So that's more what I'm thinking. Like, could they maybe pull off the next game without Draymond if they get Kuminga back? I don't think they're going to chance it, but I am just generally worried about all the beating that Dre is taking. And it would be nice to get him like some rest somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they can. Well, they can beat Phoenix without him, but it would just be very, very, very difficult, especially with the depleted wing core. So I think they just got to get that rest at the end of the season.
Yeah, he's banged up pretty bad though. But I mean, like I said, shout out to him for coming back and playing through it. And he like, there was a statement he made saying like, we don't have the ability right now. And I think I quoted it like to rest or something. I'm like, y'all never really had it. And that's always my problem with the way Kerr coaches in the season. He takes these breaks at the beginning. And then I just feel like this happens every year, that you should learn to stop. At the beginning of the season, when everyone's healthy and good, play them. Build up, because we see how much the cushion did for them last year when they had it, and that's also how I felt about the 2021 season. It's like you just like gave games away. And I feel like it's a very arrogant thing. Always like, we have more time. We have, and look at now how things are, you're battling to stay out of the play-in. Yes, you do have a chance of being like still a 4th seed, even though it's a pretty slimmer chance, but you still have a chance at 4, 5, or 6, but you also have a chance of dropping, to the play-in. And a lot of that, there were games that y'all just punted that didn't need to be punted. So even when you think about, and then we'll move on to those other guys, but even when you think about like the play last night where Dre shot the 3 at the end, and I mean, some people are like questioning, was it even really called for that? But I just think that, he made a comment like Kerr was like, I trust Draymond always at the end of the game. Okay, just like, no, you don't. Like, what, why are we lying like this? And right. Like, because of who Kerr is, and I don't think people know him the way we do, he is the kind of person to get cute like that. I mean, there's so many times with these plays when they need to try to get a play that he uses Steph as a decoy. It's a regular thing for him. So it's not out of the realm that he would be like, yeah, Draymond, you take the shot. And it's just like, okay, thankfully they won the game. But if you really did draw that up for Dre to take it, it's like, now they're just playing 5 extra minutes when they don't need to be playing extra time. Like, Steph was so out of breath at the end of that game. Dre is banged up. Like, play to get the win. That's why when you taking him out for that minute, whatever it was, why at this point in the season, Justin, are we not playing to get the win still? I don't understand this man. I don't understand him, Justin.
Sometimes I think he tries to galaxy brain it a little bit too much. I think that's literally what it boils down to. He's trying to outsmart himself in some instance. Like, oh, let me just get Steph a quick breather to bring him back in. And it's like, well, in that quick breather, the Warriors could have went down, 5 points, more than they would have if he just stayed in. Or like, let me have Steph take the ball out. They won't ever see this coming. It's like, come on, bro. Just set a double screen for him to come off, and then just have him get a nice little kind of heave at the rim and see what happens. But I mean, it did look like that play was for Steph to just like backdoor Drew, and it was open. At least it looked like it. Maybe Drew made it look like it was open.
Whether he could have gotten the pass there in time, probably could have.
Right, probably could have, especially with Steph's release. But it was just too risky of a play to try, I think. And
at least you also have the potential for Steph to try and draw the foul. I know he doesn't get them a lot, but you at least have the potential if you don't have him like inbounding like that. It just
yeah. If you wanted to do anything cute like that, then have Clay take it out. Exactly. Like if worst case scenario, you just pass it back to Clay. That's I live with Clay taking the game.
Exactly. Well. Clay is the only other person outside of Steph I want taking a shot at the end.
Right. Exactly. So, other than Iguodala, no, I'm just kidding.
I want Iguodala. Oh gosh, Max is a clown. Okay, so shout out to all the great performances last night. Shout out to all the great performances. But let's move on, Justin. So our boy Poole, and I'm saying our because I think you and I still like Jordan Poole. But he is taking quite the shellacking from the fan base. And I'm not saying that some of it isn't deserved in terms of the valid criticism, but I think that, first of all, there's something that I don't like. All of this, I just feel like a lot of this questioning of his IQ has undertones for me that I don't like. So I just need people to stop doing it. Like, he's a younger player. And sometimes younger players take longer to get things, right? Like, everyone has to develop, right? And so I don't know. I just don't like I'm never really comfortable like with the whole low IQ. And I'm not saying that I don't ever say things like, I always say the Minnesota Timberwolves last year when they played the Grizzlies, like they just were playing low IQ basketball, like as a team collectively, right? But in general, I try to stay away from like the IQ conversation with players and stuff like that. And I just sort of have a visceral reaction when I'm always hearing people talk about like players' IQ. So for one, like I just don't like that talk as it is around Jordan, That being said, we've talked about it many times over and over on this show that Jordan's being asked to do a lot. He doesn't really have like a set role on this team. And that's been basically the last couple of years because we've had Clay's been out, Steph has been out. Then you're integrating, James Wiseman or, whatever. He's been in the starting lineup. He's been in the second unit. He's been asked to be more of a facilitator. He's been asked to play like Steph when that's not really his natural game. He's been asked to do a lot. And so I feel like there's just still a level of grace that I'm going to afford Jordan because he hasn't put it all together. Because when you don't exactly know what your role is on a given night-to-night basis on a team, it's hard to master that role.
Right. I mean, I give him the ultimate grace, just considering all the things that you said already. I mean, he literally got punched by his teammate at the beginning of the season. And he's still super young. And we talk about all the time how development and growth is not linear. Like it could happen out of nowhere. There's peaks and valleys to everybody's journey in the NBA, especially a young lead guard who has been yo-yoed around as much as he has. And we've watched how high his peaks can be. We watched him literally turn into a Steph variant at the end of the season last year. And then at various moments in the playoffs, he led the team in scoring. He was putting up 30 balls in the playoffs, winning them games, against good teams on the road, like tough stuff. And then overall, his numbers in the playoffs last year were some of the best by somebody his age in the history of the NBA. So you gotta live with some of the stuff that he does when you think long term what he can mean for this team and going forward. And there's obviously some questions about like next year, will he continue to come off the bench, making as much money as he does? And given that Steph and Clay are still in their primes, like what does that really mean for Jordan? I think the initial thought process was one of Steph or Clay or both were going to decline a little bit more rapidly than they have. So Jordan was.
I don't think it was Steph. Steph was never coming off the bench. So. Yeah, it was right. Even if it just Stefan's never going to be the one. So it was sure. In the background. It was Clay. We all know that, but Jordan seems to have taken like a step back, and Clay seems to be looking
right better than he was more before.
Like old Clay. Yes.
Right. So that definitely makes it a little interesting, but at the same time, you got to think about what made Jordan or what helped Jordan be successful last year. And has that been replicated this year? I don't think so. There's just been a lot more instability around him this season, including his role, the roster, coaching, and how they approach every game, leadership, and how Draymond has had to take a step back as far as how hands-on he is, because he was literally too hands-on early in the season.
And teams are guarding him differently. They plan for him now.
Exactly. He's on the scouting report in a major way now. We saw last game, Javon Carter's on Steph and Drew Holiday's on on Jordan Poole for stretches at a time. It's like he's getting scouted heavy. So you got to understand that this may be one of those development years for him where he gets punched in the mouth. I mean, no pun intended. He gets, teams are really throwing their best at him, and he has to figure it out over the course of the year and then really internalize it over the summer and come back better the next season. So that's just, you got to live with that result. But the people who are trying to throw him under the bus and say, "Oh, we need to trade him,"
and he needs to deserve his contract. It's ridiculous.
Like, he's not. The contract hasn't even kicked in yet. Like, exactly. He could literally be way better than this next year and then outplay the contract for really.
It's like, yeah. I mean, he's not a second year player, but this is why we talk about sophomore slumps and things like that. Like, players can look really good one year, and then even the greats have years where like they just like they have a really good year the year before, and then the next year Steph had a big shooting slump last year, right? The worst in his career. Mm-hmm. So it's like, to me, and I get that Steph has done much more in his career. So, but remember how people were last year? He's in decline and da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. You were like, yeah, no. I was like, yeah, no. I mean, none of us just believed it or accepted it. I remember talking with our friend Jeremiah about this, and I'm just like, I need to see more than just, even if he's like this the rest of the full season. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, I needed to see more than one season to determine that Stephen Curry was in decline. I also don't see decline just happen like that, where like you start off hot and you're great and then it just stops. It's like, it just, right. It didn't make sense gradual. To me. Right.
Right.
And so,
unless it's an injury.
Right. And so I get that Steph has done more and proven more. And even he doesn't always get the benefit of the doubt that he should. But y'all literally just watch Jordan help us win. That's not like fake talk. He helped us win. He was needed. And Jordan is still needed. Jordan is part of the reason this team was able to maintain a 500, slightly above 500 record with Steph out. It was Clay too. Shout out to Clay, but it was Jordan as well. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. I think it's nasty. I think it's corny. I think it's ridiculous. It doesn't seem that Jordan lets us affect him, because he gets out there the next day and still does, silly stuff sometimes, or he's laughing and he's joking. But I just feel like he's owed a little bit more grace and love from this fan base, because he's literally helped them win a championship.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, like, there are some criticisms that are completely valid, right? Defensively, he needs to be better. He needs to do, the little things that
shot selection.
You aren't asked to be right. When you aren't asked to be first or second option, Steph and Clay, you need to, I need to affect the game in other ways. Rebounding, passing, doing the little things. And he needs to do that better for sure. But sometimes shots are not going to fall, whatever the case may be. It is what it is. So I think people go a little bit overboard with the stuff. And it's the same thing. Like, if Andrew comes back at some point and he looks rusty, people are going to be killing him about it. That's just how sports at this point kind of works. But it is a little annoying.
Don't even get me started. I mean, Andrew Wiggins delayed the birth of his child to play a basketball game. Like, and this is the first year ever in his career he's ever missed this many games. Like, this is not a common practice for him. With all due respect, he's not Kyrie Irving. So I just, sorry for the stray to Kai, but it's like, what are we doing? Like, and again, like you said, this is only a thing. You've said this before, because of the team's position, right? That's what this is. But the entitlement that people feel that they should know what's happening, if the team knows, they're the only ones who needs to know. And like, I don't understand. People's like, well, we just need more communication. What more communication do you need? They said they're giving him time and space, and he's dealing with something personal that's bigger than basketball. That's it. Well, if we just had a sense of the timeline, maybe they don't have a sense of the timeline, or maybe they do. That could be possible. Sometimes when things happen, you don't have a sense of the timeline. Did anyone ever think of that? But I just don't understand why people think they're entitled to know this. You don't actually care about his well-being. You only care about your fandom and how it affects you. That's what this is about. And it dehumanizes Andrew, like we often do, dehumanize athletes and treat them like their property. I mean, I've been really quite appalled by some of the takes. Like, who do y'all think y'all are? Y'all not entitled to know anything about these men's lives.
That's something we do way too much in sports. I think as fans, the only access that we have to these human beings is the fact that they are athletes for the teams that we watch. So we think of them only as your Andrew Wiggins, the player for the Golden State Warriors, not Andrew Wiggins, the person who happens to be an NBA player playing for the Golden State Warriors, right? This is only one aspect of his life. It's a big aspect. It's his occupation, his job. And it's, got him a lot of money, but it's not who he is, it's what he does. Right. So you got to take into account that there's so many more factors, in a person's life, as a person, myself and anybody out here, like your job is your job. Right. But if something personal goes on, that you might have to step away from work for a little bit. And, life happens to all these people. Just because they're celebrities, just because they're in the NBA doesn't mean that horrible life things can't happen to them. So I think we just got to have a little bit more compassion or empathy for people, regardless of what their status is, regardless what they do for a living, and regardless of how bad you want the Warriors to win another championship. Like it's going to be okay if they don't, and like just make sure that he's good, like in a good place.
And it's there's no right or wrong way to handle this. And I think that's what people need to realize, because I saw people talking about like, well, Drew Holiday, when he took off time to deal with his wife and take care of her, there was more communication around it. Well, that's the way that they chose to handle it. She was also a professional, or is also a professional athlete. And so those communications maybe were going to happen anyway, because she was also a figure in herself. Right. Didn't Kyle Lowry take a whole bunch of time from the Heat or whatever team that was? I think it was when he was on the Heat. Like, he was just away, and we didn't know what he was away for, to deal with something. Things happen, and I just don't know why people think they're entitled to know these things. And so, whatever, I'm gonna just continue to hope and pray that everything is okay, no matter what it is. And Andrew's important, and I don't candidly know that they can win a championship without Andrew. It would be a lot harder, but we cross that bridge when we get to it. But what I do know is we have Stephen Curry, we have Clay, and if Clay is playing like this Clay, like plus Dre, they're pretty hard to beat. And I'm hoping over this last month that Kuminga starts to get some more playing time to get him ready, because he is who should be leaned on more throughout the rest of the season and the postseason, not the one who shall not be named. It should be Jonathan Kuminga.
This is a perfect opportunity for him, because they don't have any wings. Wiggins is out, Gary's out, so that's 25 minutes a game, or at least it should be 25 minutes a game right there for Jonathan Kuminga. And it could be a situation like Jordan last year at the end of the year, where he takes it and runs with it, and it just kind of like speeds up his development because of the seriousness of the situation. Causes like a laser sharp focus, and it can just kind of speed up his development a little bit. But that would be best case scenario for him.
For sure. Well, they have the Suns coming into town, the KD-less Suns. It's like an omen. KD cannot come back and play at Chase. He hasn't. Right. It's so bizarre.
It's crazy.
Every time you think he's going to come to do it, something happens. There's an injury. It's very crazy. But and that it's crazy. He got injured in warmups. Kuminga did too. Thankfully, his injury is not as serious as KD's, but that's crazy. I mean, it was a really, really bad sprain. And I I feel like the Suns have actually a lot to be worried about because, like, even if he's back for the playoffs, like, KD's never been someone who needs a lot of time from injury to sort of look good. But a grade 2 sprain is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking more. I think he'll be fine ultimately. Like, obviously, an ankle sprain isn't not a career ender, but like from a team standpoint, they have even less time now to integrate somebody who is as good and is as high usage as Kevin Durant is, and that's just tough to do and try to win a championship.
They think he could miss the rest of the regular season, Justin. You're talking about bringing him back for just the playoffs or just close to it. It's not like Steph coming back to a team that knows him and has played with him. I mean, they played maybe 3-5 games together. I don't know what the number was they reached before this injury, but that's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, he's talented enough to where they can win a series or two just from just throwing them out there with those guys, but it's tough. You can't, I wouldn't say they're cheating the grind, but you can't just skip steps. I think that's just a key step. You got to build that chemistry. And I have a hard time seeing them going super far in the playoffs if even with him just coming at the trade deadline, they only had 20 something games. It was just going to be tough for me to imagine them being able to put it together that fast on a level that needed to win a championship. And they already have roster weaknesses and stuff as well. So I'm super interested to see how they're going to actually look when he gets back. Because I mean, they were playing some weaker teams when they first got back, and they were just scoring a bunch. That was it.
This is why I'm hoping that the Warriors can at least get 2 to 3 weeks of their full roster together. Ideally, like obviously missing as much time as Andrew has overall for this season, and even GP2, like their bodies are never going to be like in the same condition and shape as if they just played the full season, but at least to kind of be like get some more wins and be able to like, especially because they're relied upon so much defensively and what they need to put out, and so I'm hoping that they're back and we have about 2 to 3 weeks with them, but I mean, we just don't know. And I know everyone keeps saying it's the Kings, but I'm just wondering, when you look at all the teams, do you still think the Kings are the best? Like, if they don't have a home court, like if they can't find a way to get 4, and 4 is actually really in play. Like, I'm not saying that when I say, because now with KD going down, we saw the Suns just lose a game. It's not going to be as hard for them to win those games now, just off the back of Booker, so they could drop a couple of games. Obviously, the Warriors have to win games, but they could drop a couple of games, and the Clippers are ahead of the Warriors right now, but we have the same number of L's in the loss column. So that next game we play against the Clippers is going to be really big, because it could end up like, if we win it, we'd own the tiebreaker, and we don't own the tiebreaker with Phoenix, right? So it's going to just be crazy down to the end. But the Warriors could get 4, they could get 5 or 6. So 4 would ensure that they have a home court series. But if they don't get 4 and have a home court series, is it still your opinion that the Kings would be the best first team for them to play, in terms of them trying to kind of get themselves together and ramp up? Like if they need a series to kind of ramp up, who's the best opponent for that?
I think at this point it might be Memphis, to be honest. Even though Memphis is always a dogfight with those dudes, but I think they're just in such a weird spot right now that and the Kings are kind of rolling, that it could be a little bit in their favor to see Memphis. Really, especially it's kind of like, all right, we here in the playoffs now. Like, Memphis is a little bit weaker than last year, I think, especially with the jog stuff going on. No Brandon Clark. Who knows what's going on with Steven Adams? I think it'll really fire them up, and they'll be able to get them early, and then you'll see Sacramento in the second round potentially if they get past whoever they see at 7. But I mean, I guess it's a toss-up between Sacramento and Memphis. I think those two teams, neither of those teams want to see Golden State in the first round. Or maybe Memphis does, but that's because they just
are delusional.
They're delusional, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that would assume like if Golden State's like at 6, because whoever's at 2, we're not expecting Golden State to drop to 7th. So because if someone's at 5, then they're seeing whoever's at 4. And you could really have a case where like the Warriors are seeing the Suns in the first round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the team out of those 3 you want to see the least, but it's also a team that I'm fairly confident Golden State would beat, just given the circumstances. So yeah, I just think it would be a little less mentally taxing to play against a team like Memphis and Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna still go Kings, not because I'm underestimating them, but because 2 reasons. One, I mean, they don't defend. They just don't defend. But secondly, it's the least amount of travel. It's going up the street. It's almost like a home game for the Warriors. There will definitely be, and I get it, this will be the first playoffs for Sacramento in years. So their fans are going to be hyping in the building. They do actually have like a strong fan base, though not strong enough to vote their guys in for All-Star. But we know Warriors people are going to overtake that building or be in there. So it just, to me, is the closest thing you're going to get to a home simulation type of feel if you don't like win any home court series. And I just feel less travel. You're not having to fly to Memphis and, all of that.
True.
Shit. So I just feel like that's probably the best. I don't love it because Mike Brown needs to be a coach here. And I just feel like he'll know the team in a different way that others wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. And I guess playing devil's advocate for Memphis is like, if we get to the playoffs and Wiggins is still kind of rusty, if he comes back, Gary is still kind of rusty. Memphis doesn't have the offense that Sacramento has to really put pressure on those guys, and it will allow them to get into a better rhythm defensively before they play a better offensive team in the second round.
Okay.
Whereas Sacramento has so much offense that it's going to be kind of like throwing all of our wings in the fire, regardless of how in shape they are. It's like, yo, Wiggins, you got to stop De'Aaron Fox. Like,
right.
That's just a tough ask. But like you said, for those reasons that you said, either one is good. I think they
both have pros and cons, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
I think the pros heavily outweigh the cons, though. For both matchups, the pros heavily outweigh the cons. Either way.
Yeah, I think I'm just actually really hoping that they can get to 4th, but that really does require the Warriors to start winning. Steph said they're going to figure it out. I believe Steph when he tells me things. So
he hasn't lied
said
to
no
us
one
yet.
After they lost the play, and he said, no, yeah, y'all not going to want to see us next year. He was right. He said years and years ago, no matter how long it takes, whatever it is, they're going to figure it out. And he did. So I do think they're going to start winning at some point. I just, every time I think, okay, is it going to start happening here? It doesn't happen. So it has to happen. Like, I know that they don't want to fall to the play-in. So it's now or never. So with that, hopefully, they got one more game at home. Let's get that W, and then let's see what happens. I mean, these teams that they're kind of vying with right now, what are their schedules looking like? The ones that are remaining. There's Mavs, I guess, in theory. The Lakers are creeping up. What do you think about them?
They got a deep team now. They got a lot of guys with different skill sets. They got a lot of size on the wings. They got Anthony Davis, who's playing out of his mind. So they're a good team. I'll give it to them. They are a good team. Now, I thought it would be kind of like I thought they were a little bit too far behind to catch up, but teams started losing. Teams started tanking a little bit. So it allowed them to kind of make a push, especially without LeBron. This is a big push for them. So I think
if the Knicks can pull off the upset tonight in LA, they've been playing good basketball lately.
The Knicks, yeah, but I think they should be trying to win this game because they just lost to Sacramento and to the Clippers.
So right. No, that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. Let's hope the Knicks can pull off the upset. Plus, Julius Randle versus old team. Hopefully he'll want to make a point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the Knicks should be hungry for a win. Hopefully they can get one. But I guess looking at the other teams.
Because Lakers after that, they got Pelicans, them at Pelicans. We know the Pelicans right now are like struggling. Then you have Lakers at Rockets. And then you have Mavericks at Lakers. And I don't know if Luka or Kai will be back for that game. So they got like some Magic is on their schedule. I mean, they don't have many real opponents. The Suns, Thunder. So
they have an easy schedule. That's the annoying part.
Yeah, they have a clear path to climbing up more. And working themselves into possibly that 6th spot, which they weren't a team that I was factoring in before. I was saying that it would be 4 teams vying for 4 through 6, but it's really maybe going to be 5. I was saying that it would be like Warriors, Suns, Mavs, and Clippers. But now you add Lakers into that. That's 5 teams vying for 3 spots.
Minnesota's right there too.
I don't believe in them. Should I believe in them?
I mean, they right there. I don't think they're better than any of those other teams, but they don't have to be that much better. They just got to stick around, which, I mean, they've been sticking around so far. So
6 teams vying for 3 spots. Woo! But the Warriors may have one of the hardest schedules. It's just hard because they're all on the road and they haven't been good.
Yeah. Minnesota's schedule is kind of difficult too, but we'll see.
Okay.
See. I mean, health could also determine a lot of this.
Yeah, for sure. Mikal Bridges is an upcoming star now. Did they find something in Brooklyn? Or is this just him being new and teams gonna have to start game planning for him in differently? I mean, they're planning for him now because he's the star, but he's also, what is it? Tell me.
They'll be in the lottery if he's the star.
You're not buying the Mikal. You're not buying it. No. Okay. All right. Well, listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's show. We got into a lot, but I feel like it's been a while since we've talked to you guys, and I think we didn't cover the last game, which was my fault. I didn't have a hot date like Justin, but work be kicking my ass. And so and then we didn't get to record last night after the game. So while our temperature may have been tempered a little bit, it's definitely vibes over here. We're feeling just as high as all of you off of last night's game, and we're hoping this is the time for real that they actually capitalize on it, bottle it up, and take it with them on the road after they hopefully beat the Suns in the next game. Right, Justin?
Right. Exactly.
Quick vibe check before we go. Where we at? What number?
I mean, Steph has a unique way of, pushing the vibes up to 10, but still given the circumstances, we're going to go back down to like an 8.5. Anyway, 8.5.
It's like a drug though, right? It's like he actually really does get you high. Like Steph has a way of like, I could be pissed and he uplifts my whole fucking mood, yo. Like that ass.
That's why that's why he's a lot of people's favorite player. That's just,
it's incredible. What a remarkable quality. Definitely one of the all-time greats. We'll never see anything like him again. So stop and appreciate him. Now I sound like the LeBron fan. So let me end there. Listen, guys, I'm just seeing a Shams tweet. The Knicks are waving center Moses Brown. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. It is Golden Spaces. We are an Odyssey original podcast. Make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram at Golden Spaces Pod. Thank you. I've seen some recent reviews. I appreciate it. Please send more of them. Give us some ratings, 5 stars. You can rate on Apple Podcasts and you can rate on Spotify. Also, follow 95.7 The Game's YouTube channel. You can find our shows under there. So if you want to watch the video and not listen, but watch us and watch the whole show, you can do it there. So subscribe so you'll be alerted every time one of our new episodes pop up. Okay? Justin, any final words for the people?
Nah. Just
All right,
keep
y'all.
rocking with us.
Let's get this W. Until next time, guys. Take care.